I promise I will work hard every day to be a fair, impartial, patient, and thoughtful judge.
It's no surprise Jan Soifer has been elected and re-elected in a place like Austin. It's also no secret she has a political agenda.
And as a progressive, I can't separate my feelings about social justice.
Court cases are supposed to be doled out to judges in Travis County to control dockets. So I guess Judge Soifer is just lucky. She's been able to fight the governor and attorney general on some of the state's most controversial social issues from her bench, temporarily stopping a state investigation of families giving their children gender reassignment surgeries, calling Operation Lone Star on the border unconstitutional. In a tweet last year, Attorney General Paxton called Soifer a liberal, her ruling nonsense. You get the fight that's playing out from the courthouse. Last week, a Texas appeals court said, not so fast, when Soifer threatened to jail Austin real estate developer Nate Paul for alleged contempt in his long legal battle with the Mitty Foundation. They've been mired in 20 years of ethics questions and legal battles over their real estate transactions. What does all this have to do with Ken Paxton? Former aides complained Paxton tried to meddle in the Mitty case to help Paul, a campaign contributor.
Their relationship is at the center of bribery and misconduct accusations.
That Paxton case has been settled, but every media story in Austin on Nate Paul tries to still tie him to the Attorney General's problems, Soifer's obvious political enemy.
Law enforcement obviously are going to spend the next several months going through all of the evidence that was seized yesterday.
The FBI executed a search warrant for records at Paul's office back in 2019. He was never charged with doing anything wrong, and the Justice Department has refused to tell him why they came in the first place. Whatever the reason, Paul and his lawyers have clearly not fared well in Soifer's court. Weirdly, she's made every ruling in the Mitty case for nearly 3 years. No other judge has gotten to touch the case. We've asked the Travis County Courthouse, is that because Soifer wants to be the judge?
It should be alarming to anyone who does business or lives in Travis County.
We got a rare interview with Nate Paul in Houston last week in an unrelated court case. He's clearly frustrated with the way the Austin courts have treated him.
You think it's political? What do you think it is?
It's hard to say, right? I've seen a lot of the same things you guys have and others have, and there's been a lot of people who've reached out to me in the legal community who really are concerned.
In a state where we elect judges in a partisan way, we always look at campaign finance reports to see who's helping a judge's campaign. McGinnis Lockridge was an early supporter of Judge Soifer. That's where Mitty lawyer Ray Chester works. But the two biggest supporters of Judge Soifer early on are interesting too. Karen Patman from Bracewell and attorney Randy Howery.
We started this firm because we had the desire to represent not only large corporations, but individuals.
Howery and Bracewell both represent Brian Hardiman, the Austin real estate developer who's been locked in big legal fights with Nate Paul for years. Video proved Hardiman and his associates engineered foreclosures on some of Paul's most lucrative properties, even while he was trying to pay off the loans his company owed.
I don't give a shit.
We've reported before that Hardiman seemed to challenge Paul to try to go to court in Travis County to try and stop him.
You refuse to accept the funds, right? Go around and go find you a court in this building to come and stop this. Okay. Why don't you try that?
A review of Soifer's campaign reports since 2015 show Brian Hardiman's lawyers have donated more than $13,000 to get her elected.
There's something clearly amiss here.
In another Travis County court, Judge Amy Meacham has repeatedly denied Paul's lawyers the right to see who's profited from a secret deal to sell the Capitol Grill property he owned out from under him to his arch enemy, Hardiman. In January, we told you that just weeks before that secret real estate deal, the folks at Hardiman's law firm gave Meacham $5,000 for her re-election campaign. They gave her another $6,000 for her unsuccessful run for Supreme Court in 2020.
That firm has clients that are in front of her court probably all the time. Why do you think they gave them $11,000?
Because of good justice. They want good justice.
Because they want good justice, yeah. And so they should do it anonymously then.
The judges in Austin stood by while Nate Paul's real estate investment was sold because a lawyer from Houston showed up in a Travis County courtroom claiming he had the right to sell it. It was Seth Kretzer, appointed by Judge Ursula Hall to collect money owed to another company called Princeton Capital by a company Nate Paul was involved in. We've been raising questions about Kretzer's receiver work since last year and his attempts to get paid millions of dollars even though he never gave Princeton a penny of the money he collected.
Wayne, I always talk to reporters, but I'm an arm of the court here, so I can't say anything more than Judge Hall would say, which is I can't comment publicly.
Kretzer raided bank accounts of companies and people who didn't know Princeton a penny, under the theory that Nate Paul controlled those companies.
I think he committed crimes.
What crimes?
He took money from third parties that doesn't belong to the judgment debtor, doesn't belong to anybody but my clients. And he just took them. You should let him do it.
After months of asking himself, Sternberg finally got a hearing before Judge Hall. But Seth Kretzer, who told us he was all ready to raise his hand and swear, he didn't show up, but his lawyers did, and Judge Hall began the hearing with a surprise, trying to distance herself from Kretzer. He's not my receiver, she suggested, but Judge, he is. Just ask him.
You got to remember, I'm the court's receiver. I work for the court.
And Judge Hall then showed she hadn't even bothered to read court filings by Kretzer, given to her 5 months earlier. Kretzer had promised to account for all the money he had made back in October.
Every single penny I will stand up and swear in court can be accounted for, inflow, outflow. There's not, I invite you to scrub every single check.
That never happened, and Judge Hall didn't even know it, nor did she know Kretzer hadn't collected a penny for Princeton, the company she appointed him to help. Princeton got its money in a settlement, but even they wanted Kretzer to stop collecting money they had never seen. Kretzer? He wants another $2 million in legal fees. That's why Nate Paul made a rare appearance in a Houston courtroom, to see if Judge Hall would finally make Kretzer come clean.
I think that the tough part where you look at it is, we're all led to believe that, in the go through the judicial system, rule of law matters. These points are black and white.
And other investors whose bank accounts were raided, they want their money back. Judge Hall didn't rule. She's getting a reputation for not deciding things. But the public has a right to transparency for anyone operating under the cloak of a judge. And we're clearly not getting it. Appeals court judges have now been asked to expose the truth again in Judge Ursula Hall's courtroom. Complaints Kretzer won't disclose, even subpoenas he issued. The receiver failed to provide a proper accounting, instead submitting a report detailing what can only be described as a personal vendetta the receiver has against Nate Paul.
So if he tomorrow sweeps your account and takes $10,000 for this, what do you do? What would you call that?
I call it theft.